Hey guys, Jonathan here, and I'm very excited to show you my Sanctum Sanctorum mock. Now, at first glance, this may not look very different from the official set, but when we turn it on its side, you can see that I got rid of the entire alleyway in the back, which extends the Sanctum out the whole way. That allowed me extra space to build on the interior, as well as every level from the ground floor up. So really, the detail here is on the interior, but this was accomplished using 2 copies of the official LEGO Sanctum Sanctorum set. I'm very grateful that through the LEGO Ambassador Network, LEGO sent me 2 copies to work with here, and I know that I'm not the first person to attempt to do this, but I wanted to give my take on it. Now, when you're building within the confines of a challenge like this, you only have a finite amount of pieces to use. Yes, I have a big collection of random LEGO bricks I could have integrated here, but I love building with challenges like this where you just take 2 copies of a set or mix up some sets that are currently available and see what you can do. I'm kind of tempted to actually take every version of the Sanctum and add the pieces into it after this, but for this video, we're just taking a look at the challenge of using 2 official Sanctum Sanctorums to build what you see here. So like I said, I know I'm not the first person to attempt this build. I know that there are some great ones out there, but I have to admit, I didn't watch anybody else's videos or posts or anything like that. Before building this one, I just dumped out all the pieces on the table and followed the instructions for the original, but then of course compensated to make it longer where needed, particularly on this side. So as we get into this, I do think it's important to see the original model next to the expanded one side by side, just for full context. So when you're looking at them from this angle, they actually look pretty much identical, because basically from here over on both models, the build is exactly the same. Where it kind of differs is when we turn it on the side, you can see that the original had this big empty alleyway there, and the one that I did using 2 copies of the set fills in that alleyway. So you can see it goes back much further, about 6 studs to be exact, and I really like the fact that it's going to give us a lot more opportunities for the inside to be more detailed and have more space for play, which, even though I'm a grown adult and don't really play with my LEGO anymore, I do like that principle being there because, well, that's what this stuff's made for in the first place. So let's go ahead and start popping off the floors and taking a look on the inside. Now, on the ground floor, I kept everything literally just about the same. The only thing is I had to do some creative math here, again, to compensate for it being longer to get all the way to the back of the base plate rather than having the alleyway. That's pretty self-explanatory, and it works pretty well, so we'll jump right in here. So just like the actual set, it's pretty self-explanatory how the floors come apart. You just lift up and set this part aside. So you'll notice that I kept a lot of the design aesthetics the same, A, because we've got a limited amount of pieces to work with, and B, because I actually did like the design aesthetics of the main set. My biggest complaint, of course, was that it didn't go all the way to the back of the base plate. So now, being able to do that, the entire back section here is based off of No Way Home. So I guess we'll start in the basement, if you will. So in the back here, you could see the little table where Doctor Strange casts his spell for, you know, the world to forget who Peter Parker and Spider-Man are, just like the movie, and I used the portal pieces to kind of show, like, all the magic going on the walls. Then I used some spike pieces over here to make it look like what we see in the movie. Underneath the steps was the perfect place to put one of the prison cells from No Way Home, so you could put the villain of your choice in there, and I really did try to build enough, cages, if you will, to put the No Way Home villains in, but with the limited amount of space here, I just don't know that that would be possible without compromising space up here, and if I compromise too much space, then I get right back to where I was with the original build, not having all that much space. So I felt like I devoted a healthy amount to both areas so that, both get their time to shine, but I really like that. On the table, we've got some random relics and things like that, and we've also got a little relic in the corner, as well as a fridge, because, of course, that reminded me a lot of in the movie, like all the stuff going on in the basement. Then, of course, I figured we could put one of the spell books on the table here, and kind of have it propped up like it's on some kind of ledger or something like that, where your minifigs can read it. That brings us over to the main area. Of course, the doors use the stickers, just like the official set, where the doors open inward, a little something like that. Then that brings us to the interior, and we've just got some cool relics hanging on the walls, a little globe over there, and overall, the general aesthetic here is very similar to the official set. I even put the fireplace in there from No Way Home. Wasn't quite sure if I wanted to build it all the way up, and I ended up just leaving it as is. I probably could have put like a little mantle on there or something just to finish it off, but regardless, that brings us up the steps, and just like the official set, we have this little landing that goes here, so you do have to kind of push it in at an angle because of those studs on the back wall, so you kind of have to like lower it in a little something like this. and then it all comes together like that. Just like the official set, we've got some, random things like in the attic or whatever. And yeah, that looks pretty good. And let's go up a floor now. All right, so we've added a floor now, and as you can see, that landing has steps that come up and bring you to this big open area. Now, again, staying true to the original, I left a lot of the relics up top, as well as the bookshelves, and I was able to keep the play feature in, where you can open this door, and then you push these little AC units in, and it changes where the location is. So here we've got the mountains, and then, of course, you could push this one in, and we've got the desert. So I did like that play feature a lot, and I wanted to keep that if I could. So I did that here. Got a little lamp in the corner there. I put some drawings and spells hanging on the walls, as well as an area for Thor and Doctor Strange to sit, just like we see in Thor Ragnarok. Then I was able to use some more of the brown tile pieces to build just enough of a walkway up front where we could have a complete floor. And then, of course, I put on this wall here some random relics and things like that that, just can be hanging on the wall. And just like the actual set, you can remove that part of the wall. And I did build the Shumagorath build, or Gargantos as they call him in the movie, that you could slither into there and it will fit just like the actual set. Or, of course, you could flip it around just like the actual set and have this coming out of the side. But as you'll see when I put it in my city a little bit later, you really can't have anything right here just based off of my city layout. Yours may be different, so if you try this, just be aware that extending it the entire way to the back of the base plate does sort of limit your options of how you could place it in a modular city. But hey, finding a home for it is half the fun. Okay, now as I placed the third floor on, I want to show you that there's a little hang there. Like a build that comes out of the bottom, so you can't really just set it down flat because it's going to fall on those pieces that I built in the bottom, and it may not make sense now, but in just a second it will. So now we're at the top floor, and like I said, it would make sense because I put some steps coming up. So when you're looking at it at ground level, boy, that portal there is pretty convenient. It looks like there's steps coming through, but the shadows, because not enough light gets to the bottom, just kind of makes the steps look like they end or keep going or whatever. So it really looks good in the context of looking at it here. But of course, you don't have to build the steps the whole way down, which works out really great too. Anyways, you'll notice on the walls, I kept a lot of the relics from the original, but having two sets to work with gave me a lot of extra pieces to kind of fill in the gaps and make some of my own relics to hang on the wall. Didn't really come up with any specific lore for them or anything. But another thing I really like, I did have to get a little bit creative how to put this in here because, and by this I mean the window actually clips into this bar on the trapdoor, but now that the trapdoor is in the center, I actually had to kind of recreate the same effect over there with that little table. But of course, Doctor Strange kind of stands and looks through the window with all kinds of thoughts going through his head in the movies, so I do think that it's very cool to have a space for him to stand, which the original didn't offer. Beyond that, we've just got a bunch of random relics hanging out around here, and I think it works really well. Of course, we've got the portal window in the back, but once again, you can, if you want, go ahead and take the Shumagorath and put that in there. You have to move the tentacles around, and I'm filming with both hands, so a little tough to do on camera, but it does technically fit through there. And if you wanted, you could put this on the back of the building too, coming through, which you'll see in just a moment as I place this in my Lego city. That could technically work as is, but I kind of like the portal on its own just a little bit better so you can see inside, but that's just my personal opinion. And then, of course, the roof goes on the top. Now, this did require some tricky engineering to go ahead and put a bunch of plates on the bottom for stability, but, of course, having two sets to work with does give you enough pieces that you could cover the entire roof, and that's the whole build. So let's see how it looks in my Lego city when it's all said and done. Alright, so finally it's time to actually place the build in the city. Now, as you can see, I've got a little Marvel area going on over here with the Bugle, now the Sanctum there, and of course the Avengers Tower. Now, like we talked about with the build itself, these little pieces here that of course show you like the multiversal portals from the inside that we talked about, unfortunately, because this doesn't line up, it has to go against somewhere where there's nothing, right? Because this amount of stud is just enough that it would hit into the fire escape if you put it facing that way on the Bugle, and it would hit up against the Avengers Tower here. So now we've got a little sidewalk between the Avengers Tower, and then of course we can use the sidewalk from the Daily Bugle in order to have the Captain America advertisement there. It ends up getting hidden, but hey, that's kind of like real New York City, right? Stuff gets hidden all the time. That being said, I really like the way it looks on the street there, where of course we could see the, bubble in the window there, and it really does look good between the three, and I also like that it's in sequential order of release too, so that's pretty cool. So I'm very happy finding it a home here in the city. I love the way it turned out. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys on the next video.